There you are.
Hey guys,
Hey guys, is that the greeting?
that's a YouTube
Is that the
greeting.
YouTube greeting? Hey
Hey
guys.
guys, it's been a while, since we spoke about something serious.
Actually,
And
we've never.
no,
We have, eh?
but I think we've had a bit of a break,
Yeah,
from talking of serious stuff.
yeah.
But this gender-based violence, that's happening around the country, is really, really got us thinking. And we've actually had a conversation around it, which we thought, let's just bring it in this platform.
Yeah,
You know,
and
let's
maybe let's
let's
solicit
have
your
a con-
viewers
let's,
as
let's have a
well. Let's hear what you
conversation.
guys have to
And
say.
because we came across this video, which I think is really the source of this YouTube video, where it was talking about about this gender-based violence being deeper than what we see. Basically saying it begins at home. I don't know what your feel is, but
Yeah,
what we see now is not something that just started when someone is 27.
yeah,
You don't just begin, you don't just start and be an abuser.
yeah,
It's either somewhere in your upbringing or somewhere in your, the way that you were brought up.
yeah,
There were certain things that were almost instilled in a very unconscious manner.
yeah.
You are trying to raise a boy, but at the same time, there are certain things that you are almost instilling in this boy.
Before we get there, we said we'll do this video on condition that we're gonna be brutally honest, and we do have views on the matter. And firstly, I think that to start by saying, if 1 in 8, if that's correct, I've also seen 1 in 6, but I see more 1 in 8
Yeah.
women, killed in South Africa on a daily basis by somebody they love. And that is serious.
No, it is.
That is, my goodness, that is epidemic. And I think that there needs to be more talks, but I think more action.
Yeah.
Yes, on the side of us as activists, but also I think more action on the part of government. I think that there needs to be more stringent legislation, to try and curb this thing. This thing is evil. This
Yeah,
thing
it's getting out of
is
control.
out of control. It's just sad how South Africa has gotten to be the capital, femicide capital of the world.
Yeah. But
This is not cool. Let me just this is so not cool. And I think that that's one part, the legislation. And legislation, I say legislation because legislation is really the only thing from a legal standpoint
yeah.
that will allow courts to act much more stricter and much more firmer, on the thing. Because I think the we've seen couples who are engaged in this, or even survivors,
Yeah.
people who are who are victims or survivors of gender-based violence. And I think, though, the other side of it is, from that perspective, it's not just legislation and the justice system, but I also think that this, for me, is also an issue of morality.
Yeah.
And I'm of the view that you cannot legislate morality. It means that the revival of social morality, if anything,
Yeah.
we need to speak more, around issues of social morality, where we respect another human being, and respect the life of another human being.
no,
It's a
certainly.
value system.
I fully agree with you. You know, as much as we can take and push this to government, and I know, you know, passing things to government becomes almost like an easier response. You know, government must take care of this and all of that. But I personally believe that there is a role that family can play in this.
That's social morality.
You know, social morality. As I was saying, that an abuser does not just become an abuser when you are 27.
Yeah.
You know, there's been instances where you've been showing signs of that behavior
Yeah.
throughout your life.
Yeah.
And then obviously, the minute you meet somebody else in your life, those things, you have learned them somewhere.
Yeah,
You know what
over
I'm
a
saying?
sustained
Over a
period.
sustained period. I don't believe that there's an abuser that just wakes up one day, you know, one crazy day from absolutely being a great person
Yeah.
and they become an abuser. Surely there are those people, but majority. I do believe that it's stuff that is learned, you know, from the time you are young at home. Hence, when I started, I said, let's go back to what we are, what we are whispering in our kids' minds. Today, we're going to talk about boys, even though I know abuse is happens for men and women. But let's just focus on men because,
because
that's
they're the
where the
perpetrators.
majority. Well, that's what is being out there.
Well, the face of an abused person
Is a man.
is a woman.
Well, is a woman, obviously,
The
perpetrator
face of
being.
an abuser
Is
is
a
a
man.
man. So that doesn't mean there are no men who are abused.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't mean there are no women, you know, who are abusers.
Mm.
But I need to say this from a man's point of view.
Yeah.
We're having this conversation with Pinley. And I think, having said what I said earlier, I think that the gender-based violence activism, and please, you can shoot me if you want to, I'm fine. I think that it has served as a way of shutting down men. Shutting down men, I'm not talking about men who are accomplices, men who, you know, if you like, what's the word? Accomplices, you know,
Like
to
abusers.
yeah, who enablers.
Yeah.
You know, I'm talking about guys that are disgusted at the thing.
But
Disgusted
how is
at the
it
thing.
shutting them down, though?
It's shutting them down in the sense that as a man, I'll speak as Mo, as a man, the way that this fight is waged currently, I think, in my view, is waged by angry women, and I understand
and
the
angry
anger.
for a reason, though.
I understand that. I was the first one to say that. You know, I understand the anger. And that anger, by the way, is the anger that I have, right? But we are different in our approaches. We're different in how men approach things to how women approach things.
Okay.
In the sense that, what do I mean? When I say that it's led by angry women, more often than not, it'll be women, or let me put it this way, more often than not, guys would take a backseat on this subject. Lots of guys would take a backseat on the subject. And those that speak, they only speak insofar as agreeing to how the war is waged. I personally, boldly, I will look at you in the eye and tell you, I don't agree with how the war is waged. I don't agree because it seeks to divide us more than us unifying
Uniting, yeah.
and fighting a common cause together. During the fight against apartheid, what we did, what our fathers did, and our grandparents did, what
Was
they
to
did,
unite
they
against
sought
one common enemy.
they sought as much alliances as possible. You have the tripartite alliance that still lives today. It's people that are pursuing different agendas,
Yeah.
but they have a common cause. There was an alliance with, civil society. There was alliance across black political parties. There was an alliance with churches, and so on and so forth. Because there is a common enemy that we all need to wage war, against. There was international alliances. Here,
But why
with
are men
this,
silent?
with this, you see,
Silent,
we are, I believe, and this is my take, and somebody may have a different take. I believe that we are silent because I'm seen and I'm looked at and I am spoken to as a perpetrator, even though
You are not.
I am in your corner. When I say your corner, I mean it's my corner too, because this affects me. I am raising girls. I have a mother. I've got aunts
in
and
your
so on.
life, yeah.
So even though this is my struggle too, but I am seen as an enemy too. And yes, I need to get to the point where I overlook the fact that I cannot be offended as a man during this war. I'm clear about that.
But
I cannot be offended by the words, by the stuff that people say, even women say, and all of that. But what I'm saying is, we cannot wage a war, when you cannot wage a war against even people that are in our corner. Because what they do, the people in our corner, they would fold their arms.
so they will almost like retract.
They will almost, because men don't know what to do.
But
because every time I open my mouth, there's something wrong I'm saying. Even though I know I'm saying something right, I know that I believe in what I'm saying, but I'm not allowed to say it because then I'm going to be seen in a bad light.
But I think so that the biggest problem is not the fact that there is a fight against all men.
I agree.
The issue is there's got to be a way of men calling out abusers, because
And we do.
One thing I know for sure, these abusers don't live in isolation.
They don't live in us.
They
live
live among us.
They're on social
So
media.
in
They're on
other
YouTube.
words,
They are everywhere.
yes, in other words, a man knows another. But I think what becomes a challenge for women is no one is saying anything.
But sweetheart,
So we almost feel like you guys are almost ganging up against women, or you guys know each other but don't call each other out.
I got you.
And it's not just a matter of painting all men in one brush.
Trust me, I'm not against painting all men. When we fought against apartheid, it was white people. We didn't segregate between these white people and those white people.
Yeah,
But in our struggle, we still had the Joe Slovo who was white. We still had a number of white people,
whites,
who were white. Now, the point I'm making is, when I speak, don't shut me down. When I speak,
How are you shut down?
I speak from a point. I speak from how I see things.
So are you
How I
saying
see
women
should
are
matter.
not listening
I
to what
believe,
other men are saying?
I believe, when I said the struggle is led by angry women, I think that there needs to be a more softer approach, because this consternation and this opposition, it's us and you versus you and all of that, it is not going to achieve anything. And we'll keep hitting our fists against the wall and keep hitting the fist and hope that it will affect the wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But when guys fold their arms, let me say this. Guys have emotions too. Let's talk about abuse and gender-based violence. Guys have emotions. It's such that the difference between guys and girls, if you'll allow me, is that girls are much more empowered naturally to speak openly about their feelings, to talk, about to give voice to their feelings. However, guys, we've grown up in an environment where we've been told we need to man up.
So we have a louder voice.
You have a louder voice, and your words are 10 times more than ours.
But
And then what we would do is we would bottle those feelings, we would bottle how we feel, we would bottle, even when you do something wrong to us, we are not the first people who are going to, give feelings. We're going to give voice to those feelings because we are raised up in an environment where we're supposed to man up and be quiet
man,
and
really.
be a man. Be a man. You're not supposed to cry, be a man. You're not supposed to whine, be a man. In fact, I would even dare say, you guys, women, you would also talk us into that corner.
How so though?
Where, if a guy talks about feelings, is too soft.
Like you need to man up.
He's too soft. No, I want a manly man. I don't want a guy, I want a rugged man. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying that, we can't keep apologizing for who we are. We can't keep, because then you are shutting us down. And we keep a lot of men, I'm talking about decent guys. A lot of guys would keep quiet in this struggle, not because they don't have anything to say.
Or don't have something
They
to
have a
add.
lot to say, but they are scared of saying something that is going to, get them sliced into pieces by angry women.
But Surat, is it how you just mentioned something now of saying this is how we are, and for me that's a very sore point because you can't be this is how we are, Is it a matter of this is who you are as men, or is it a matter of this is how we've been socialized as men? Because there's a difference between those two things. If that's how we are socialized, it means there is a way of unsocializing.
I get you.
If there's such a thing.
I get you.
Unsocializing you from being people with no feelings, so to speak. Because I find that this thing is affecting us now in marriage, where we marry be a man type of people.
The guy who must be a man.
Exactly.
Now, here's my thing. I think to answer your question is both ways. I think we are socialized as such, but I also think there are biological differences between us. We think from the opposite sides of our brains, right? And the opposite sides of our brains are neurologically different. There's the left brain.
Left and the right.
The left brain is logical. The left brain, thinks in straight lines. The left brain, is much more of a risk taker, and so on and so on. There's a number of differences, and that's the side the guy thinks from. And the right brain is more caring, is more nurturing, is more softer, is much more emotionally expressive, and so on. That's the side women think, from. And so the differences aren't just about us and how we are socialized and how we. Yes, that is true
also
too.
is parts,
But at the same time, God created us differently because men and women, are different species.
From the creation
point of view.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like the way things are done currently, you guys are wanting us to be women. And you're not going to like us when we are women.
No, of course not. But I don't think it's actually wanting you guys to be women. I think this is me. I think, when I said this is how we socialize, I think when we are raising boys, there is this thing that is instilled in boys, where, and I'm guilty, as well as a parent and someone who's raising a boy, where we don't want boys to cry, we don't want boys to show feelings. We even have the audacity of saying, boys don't do that. Boys don't cry, for example. And I have a challenge with that because then what that means is a boy child is not in touch with their feelings. So what then happens, this boy child, I'm raising a 7-year-old now, if I raise him,
And this boy too.
and this boy, I mean, this boy was raised by my mother-in-law, but if I raise a boy child who grows up believing, and I instill this in him to say, don't cry, boys don't cry, be a man. A man does ABC, man this, man that. I can't expect when this boy is fully grown and is dating, what do you think he will know as part of his make? You know, he will know to be someone who bottles up his feelings, someone who doesn't show how he feels, someone who doesn't cry. And for me, I have a problem because if you don't cry, it means there's anger that you build up, you know, within yourself. Because obviously you are not crying. Where are those feelings going?
No, those feelings, you express them in two ways. That's one way of bottling things up, and me and you know from a psychological point of view what happens when
you
bottled
keep-
up, you know, bottled up feelings in a relationship, and what that does in a relationship. It comes out stinking when it comes out. The second way is because he has few words, and you guys overpower us with words and emotions and all of that, and it's too much at the same time. And a man would, you know, express that physically,
Okay.
right? And they would express that physically because he feels cornered, and when he feels cornered, he feels he needs to defend himself.
So
you know, and all
physically
that,
being
rightfully or
what?
wrongfully,
Being physically,
beaten, physically expressing, you know, whether he's pushing you or whatever. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. I'm just
but
saying
it comes from bottling up these feelings.
I believe it comes
So
up from
the only way for you to take these feelings out is by being physical.
by being physical. When you feel, you see, so that here's my belief, and I know it's yours as well, and I know it's a lot of people's belief, Uguti. A lot of guys do not wake up and they say, I feel like beating, you know, my girlfriend.
My partner, yeah.
Right? As you correctly points out, they have grown up with that. You know this about me personally, if I can be a little bit vulnerable. I grew up in an environment like that, where the male figure, you know, in my life for years, since I was a baby, for years until I grew old, you know, raised often, very often, his hands on the mother figure, you know, in my life, you know, and that thing, it affects you. It affects you psychologically, and you grow up with that. And I'm saying many guys, even girls, by the way, many of us grew up in that environment. Now, you take that into your relationship because you don't know any better.
Yeah.
Monkey see,
Yeah.
monkey do. You know, and you take that into your relationship, and you know, obviously, that is wrong. You know, I mean, we've been together for 17 years, married 16. I've never raised my hand on you. There's never been I'm saying men need to be responsible for what they do.
But the question is, how did you, because I've heard a lot of talks about, you know, I'm a rapist or I'm an abuser because I grew up in an abusive relationship. How then did you? Because if you grew up in that same environment, which is what I believe that's how you grew up, how then did you turn out different?
I
from the
personally,
environment that you grew up in?
it becomes a personal decision. You see, this thing has to do with education. Education is not just what you learn in a classroom. I think this also goes with, you know, looking at things and saying, but you know, that's not how I want to be. You know, that's not how. So it becomes a decision that you make.
Okay.
But the challenge that exists now is that you have guys, you have gentlemen, you know, who in the public, on social media, they are like these loving and great guys, and you know, they are great guys and so on. But you know, when you go behind the scenes,
They are different.
we see these stories. We don't even need to mention them.
Yeah.
People that are well known, beaten by their spouses, or not. Often it's boyfriends. You know, but I'm just saying that, you know, there needs to be a little bit more softer approach and appreciation of who we are, appreciation of what we bring as men to the table, and for as long as we are not part of the table in solving this issue, I don't think that there will be a solution.
So
To the
it
issue
will just be us talking amongst ourselves.
among yourselves. I think that women need to be a little bit, and I'm saying this, understanding the anger, understanding the pain,
Yeah.
understanding and all of that. I think there needs to be a little bit more softer approach to saying, you know what, guys, you know, because then that will allow a whole lot of guys, it'll open the door to a whole lot of guys, you know, who will come in and say no, but just like it did with apartheid.
Yeah.
With apartheid, when there was a softer approach, when there was a downing of, izigalo in Xhosa, downing of, weapons and the armed struggle. Then it
There were
opened
less fights and more talk.
more talk. And that's how Codesa happened.
Yeah.
Because there was an agreement beforehand, you know, of saying, guys,
Let's talk about
first
this.
of all, if we're going to talk, let's, you know, halt the armed struggle. And then Mandela, you know, everybody, they called off the armed struggle and Babu Tambo and so forth. And then it opened a door to a whole lot of white people, you know, to come in and be
honest
on the
about,
side. This is what is happening, I believe, in America with Black Lives Matter, the movement, not the organization, the movement. It opened a whole lot more door to white people because all of a sudden they saw George Floyd being killed live on camera, you know, and begging. And I'm saying before then, it was just a hearsay. White people were closed.
It brought it to life.
But can I tell you, there were still a whole lot of black people who were killed by police. Even,
No, of
you know,
course,
so
it
I'm
wasn't
saying,
the first.
I'm